Hello and welcome to day 1 of the Floral Craft Countdown, where I'm showing you how to make 14 flower-themed Cricut paper craft projects in 14 days. We're kicking off the countdown with this beautiful bumblebee and daisy layered paper craft design. It's got loads and loads of layers in it to give it lots of dimension, and it looks absolutely gorgeous when it's put in a frame, but you could also size it down to go on a greetings card. Let's find out where to get the file and how to make your bumblebee paper craft. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Floral Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/floral. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you have missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/floral bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Floral Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You will need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Here's what the bumblebee design looks like once it's loaded into Design Space. If you're not sure how to get to this step, then check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown, where there's a link to a separate tutorial with video on how to upload SVG files into Cricut Design Space. To see all the pieces in the design, you can click the little arrow next to the picture in the Layers panel, and that will show you all the different bits that make up this design. I just wanted to point out that it might seem at first glance like it's got the same thing in there 4 times for these different pieces, but actually they're all slightly different because they're making up depth and dimension in the petals. So each layer has a couple less petals to build it up as we go. It does come in at a great size to cut out, but you'll probably want to resize it to fit your frame or your greetings card that you're putting it on. To resize, make sure the padlock icon at the top of the width and the height boxes is closed. If yours is open, click that padlock to close it. That means you can then type either the width or the height, press enter on your keyboard, and the other measurement will change in proportion, so everything stays looking beautiful. If you'd prefer to just cut the bee and the flower, you can delete the background layers. To do that, look down the very bottom of the Layers panel, and then there are 3 pieces here, a blue, a green, and then a lighter blue. Hover over each one and click the eye icons to hide those layers, and that means the Cricut won't cut those out. However, I am going to do mine as it comes, so I'll turn them back on. If you've already purchased the frame or shadow box that you want to put the design in, then you will need to measure it so that you can size your design to make sure it's going to perfectly fit. I have a separate tutorial on the best ever way to frame paper craft projects so that they not only fit perfectly, but also to ensure that you stick everything straight, level, and centered every time. Check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown to find that tutorial. I'm going to follow the steps in that tutorial to add some layers to go inside my frame. I won't do that in this video because I show you how to do it in the other one, but I will just quickly show you what it looks like when I'm finished before I cut it out. Here's what my project looks like now after following the steps in my framing tutorial to add some little squares to the background. So this will be the full width of my shadow box, and I'll cut this from some patterned paper. Then I've made a little border square which is the same colour as the edge of the circle, and then I've got a slight off-white or creamy colour which will be the main background. So for me, I'm now all ready to go ahead and cut this out. So let's click Make over on the top right to separate out the colours. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and then if you want to, you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. Make sure nothing overlaps when you're doing this, otherwise it won't cut out properly. You will need to change the paper size for every single colour, so go ahead and do that, get everything looking exactly as you want it to. Then you can press continue to connect to your Cricut and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from your cardstock. Here are all of my pieces of cardstock cut out, and I've laid them one on top of the other, following the assembly guide which comes included in your download folder, just so that I can check I'm happy with all my colours and that I haven't accidentally missed anything out. We'll be sticking this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Bearly Art Glue, and I got this on Amazon in the UK. It's a little bit hard to find in the UK, but it's much easier to find if you live in the US. But another great glue I also like, which is easier to find in the UK, is Collall. The Collall is a solvent glue, so it's got a little bit of a smell to it, whereas the Bearly Art Glue is a white glue and this one doesn't smell. The foam squares I'm using are from Dot and Dab. I like these ones because they're nice and small, but any will do. If yours are large, you might need to cut some of them smaller with scissors so that they'll fit into the spaces in the design. We need to start at the bottom and work our way upwards. So I'll move some of these pieces apart, trying to keep them vaguely in the right sort of order, seeing as I've already gone to the effort of putting all these pieces in place. There's lots of white in this design to make up all the depth in the petals of the daisy flower. And then the very bottom two are your palest blue, and then this green piece. I actually ripped this by mistake when I was taking it off the mat, but because it's going to get covered up, you're not actually going to notice. So in case you're wondering what that is, that was a little bit of a whoops moment. This will be stuck on with foam squares, so that it gives a bit of dimension to the leaves along here. So we'll turn that upside down and get my foam squares. I'm going to put some in all the sticky out places, like the edges of the petals and the wings on the bee. If you've cut this quite small, then you might also need to cut your foam squares smaller to get them to fit. So I'm going to go through and also put some in the middle of the card, because if there's nothing in the middle to hold it sturdy, you might find that it kind of starts bending and not looking as good as it does when you do put the bits in the middle. So I'm putting these all on here. It's better to have a few too many than not enough, especially when you're working on the bottom layers, as this is going to have the weight of all the other pieces of cardstock on top of it. Okay, that's a good amount on there, but I'd like some around there. I have a feeling my foam squares are going to be too big for this. Let's see. Oh no, they fit in just perfectly. If they hadn't have done, I'd have cut them smaller with scissors. You don't want your foam squares to go over any of the edges, otherwise you'll see them when it's all finished, which we definitely don't want. Now that I've added all of those on, I can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. Now I've peeled those tops off, I can stick this onto my bottom piece. I'm going to line this up and then gently drop it down, because just by gently dropping it, it means if I'm not happy with the positioning at all, I can pick it up and move it, as it won't actually have stuck yet. A bit like that. Let's try this side instead. That's better. I managed to lose a sticky pad then onto my finger. I'm not quite sure where. But just by gently lying it down, it means that if you're not happy, you can pick it up and move it and reposition it without damaging anything. And then when you're happy, push it down to seal all of those foam squares on. Next, we've got the darker blue that makes up the border, and this will be glued on. Now it's time to start working on the flower petals, and the very bottom one, the biggest one of all, we will glue on. I know this is a little hard to see because it's white card on my white table. So I'll try and pick each layer up and show it to the camera as I'm going with my hands underneath so that you can see it a little bit better. There's that one. And then the next one is this one, which looks like this. Hopefully you can see that okay. And this will be a foam square layer. So turn it over and add all your foam squares. Now, just like before, I'll line this up and then gently drop it down. Right, that's looking good. I'm happy with that. So I'll push down to stick. We've got a few more flower layers to go. And the next one is this one, which is going to make up the flowers here. Like that. And this time we're going to glue it. You could foam it if you want to add a little bit more dimension, but you'll still notice the petals, even if it's just glued, there'll still be enough variation where the cut lines meet on the edges to see that there's a different layer. It's a kind of tough one when all the bits are exactly the same colour, to add in enough layers to make it look realistic, but not so much that it gets too thick, which is why I'm going to glue this one. It kind of makes the lines go in there. You probably can't see on camera, but it does show up in real life. And then next is this one, and this time we will foam square it again. Line up the petals and then drop down and push when you're happy. Now it's time to start working on the bee, beginning with this layer here, which makes up the detail in that back wing. This is a glue layer. I'll try and get my glue in those little tiny pieces of the wing because it will just help give it a bit of stability. This is where the Barely Art glue nibs, which are so thin, come in very helpful. You can also use it to get the glue in those little antennas too. I'm pushing down quite gently on that wing so I don't smush the glue out. And there's that one. Next, I'll do this yellow, which makes up the yellow in the back of the bee and also the yellow in the middle of the flower. I'm going to glue this one too. Next, we have this piece to make up the stripes in the bee, and it's another glue layer. Next, I'll do the top wing of the bee, which has two pieces to it, a solid white and then a grey. The white will be foamed and the grey will be glued. Moving on to the yellow for the petal, sorry, not petal, the middle of the flower. This is another glue layer. And then there's the legs of the bee. I'm going to foam square these to give it a little bit of pop, but I will need to cut my foam squares a little smaller. To do that, just with a regular pair of scissors, go down a row of them and cut them in half. And now they are super tiny, which means they're hard to pick up and use. So I'm going to have to be careful. That was upside down, was it? Nope, it was right. Confusing myself now. There's one. Here's two. And last but not least, leg 3. Okay, I've also got this piece to make up that final petal, and this one will be foam squared. I'm going to do the same thing for the petal up here. Foam square that on too. There's also this petal, which is the shape. This goes over here. Oh, just knocked my glue over. And this will also be foamed on. Even though there aren't many colours in this design, there's lots of pieces. It's going to be beautifully dimensional when it's all stuck together. Alright, almost there. We've just got the stem of the flower left. This one, which will be glued, and then a couple of other ones, and then we'll also have the eye on the bumblebee. That one on there. Then there's this solid piece, which I'm going to foam on. Give it a bit of pop. There we go. And then the last bit of green is this detail, and this will be glued. Oops. I just got glue everywhere doing that. That wasn't very clever. And I've creased my bit of card. Luckily the glue dries clear, so I don't think it will notice when it's all dry. There we go. Okay, just the eye of the bee next, and there's a white bit and a black bit. I use a little bit of foam for this. If you'd prefer a more subtle look, then you can glue these bits on instead. Okay, that's going to go about there. Then glue the black bit on top. Like that. And that is Mr. Bumblebee and his daisy flower all finished. If I tilt it round, you can see all of the different layers and dimension going on in there. It looks really, really beautiful and a lovely introduction to this floral craft countdown. Now I'm going to go and cut out all of the layers for my shadow box and then get it all framed, so I'll show you what it looks like once that's been done. Here's my finished bumblebee after putting it in the frame. I've used a pattern paper for the very back, and then I've got a blue which matches the blue outline of the bee, and then a slight kind of creamy off-white colour for the very middle square. And I think that sets off the design beautifully because it picks up on the yellows in the bee and the flower, and also gives even more flowery goodness to that pattern on the outside. I hope you enjoyed watching this video with me on how to make a bumblebee and daisy layered paper craft. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and come back tomorrow for day 2 of the Floral Craft Countdown. Thank you for watching. Bye!